This is Ramatra, and we've got the details on the way some of his abilities work. Also, we've got some amazing screenshots here of his in-game model, and it looks absolutely insane. So this, what we're looking at on the screen right now, is Ramatra in what's known as Nemesis form, because Ramatra is a transformer hero. He switches from his standard form to his Nemesis form, and his Nemesis form is sort of the pure tank form, but the standard form, well, he's got some really interesting abilities, but I'm going to break all of that down in this video. But just look at how insane that hero looks. If this is what we can expect from future new hero design in Overwatch 2, my days, we're in for something amazing. So what about the standard form, the Omnic form of Ramatra? Well, this is him. He's very slimline. He doesn't seem very big. You wouldn't say he's necessarily a tank silhouette when he's in this mode. Of course, we can see that he appears to have a sort of dark orb floating above his head. Maybe that goes inside of his staff. I think it kind of does based on some of the other images. Yeah, and he holds a staff, and this kind of gives an air of, you know, he's intelligent, he's wise, he's a wizard. That's what he feels like to me when he's in this form, and I think it just looks really, really cool. And this is a great shot as well. Of course, this is inside Nepal, where the Shambhali monks would gather, because of course that's part of his lore. He was with Zen, although he decided to go a different path rather than the path of peace and enlightenment. Ramatra's gone down the path of war and destruction, all in the name of keeping his people alive, which is of course the Omnics, and he is the founder of Null Sector. This again is another wonderful image. This is outside in Nepal, and you can see the design they're going for when he's in this standard Omnic form. He does look very regal. He does look like a leader. He looks like royalty, like I said. I really like this. I like the split cloak he's got as well, and the way he's holding his staff. I do like the big IDE cables they've got running for his hair and through the staff. I do like that. It looks really good. But yeah, I like his color scheme. Purple, gold, black. Really, really cool. Let's move on to his abilities in the Omnic form. Now, this image is great. So we see him with his staff aimed forward. However, in the middle of his staff is that sort of dark energy orb that was floating above his head. Now, the developers on the live stream, the developers in the interview of which I've taken these images from, which was done with a Malaysian game outlet and media company kind of thing, kind of an obscure website, but it's Blizzard, that's what they do. And but I've dug the images up, so we've got them, and they stated that yeah, this is it's a projectile weapon. It's basically a weapon that fires a stream of some type of projectile energy out of it when he's in this form, and I think he looks really badass. But this isn't his tank form. Remember, he's got two different forms. So it's almost like he can operate potentially as a ranged DPS with maybe a defensive ability. And he does have a defensive ability in this mode, because I'll show you it in a second. But then he's got this sort of rush down super Nemesis mode where he turns into like a primal Winston and rushes in. Really cool. But that's not an ultimate. That's just, he can just do that. He can just swap between these modes. That sounds really cool. This is a great screenshot because it kind of gives us an idea as to the way this ability could work. So this appears to be his barrier when he's in the Omnic form. So he's casting this like he's a magical wizard man, which is what he kind of looks like when he's in this mode. Now, I'm not sure what this does. This is either just a barrier that traps people in it, which would be kind of hilarious if you could just trap somebody in a barrier. It sort of looks like a hard light barrier. Maybe something that Symmetra would have. I don't know. Obviously, it's purple, and Symmetra wouldn't have a purple barrier. But yeah, I don't know any of the information. They haven't given us any of the details on the way this works, on the amount of damage it can block. Does it even block damage? Does it maybe reduce the damage coming from the inside of it? Does it slow down people inside of it? I don't know. But he can only do this, it would seem, based off the UI screenshots I'm going to show you guys in a second, when he's in this Omnic form. But that looks really, really, really cool to me. So let's jump on to some first-person shots, because we've got the UI available here, and you can see him deploying what I believe is this barrier when he's in his Ramatra Omnic mode. Now, he's obviously in the Ramatra Omnic mode because he's got 450 HP, which is still a ton of HP for something that is not in tank mode. You know, that is really, really tanky for something that isn't in its tank mode at the moment. Also, you can see his staff. So he doesn't have his staff out when he's in tank mode. He's got his fists out. But yeah, if we look at the ability icons, you can see that he's got a barrier, which I think is what he's deploying there. He's got left shift. Oh no, maybe E actually is the ability he's deploying there. So maybe that isn't even his barrier. So there's a cool thing. Maybe we've got completely confused, and what we were looking at isn't a barrier, it's some other ability, some sort of area of effect ability, which is castable on the ground. Yeah, it must be, because he's using it, look, with the E. I've only just noticed that, really cool. So he does have a barrier as well, but we don't know what that is. The icon makes it sort of look like a Sigma barrier, so maybe that's what he's got. He can just deploy a Sigma barrier. Again, we don't know the health of the barrier, we don't know the way that barrier will function or anything like that, but he's got a barrier and some sort of area of effect ability. And then his shift ability seems to be big powerful fist, which would indicate to me that's what you press to flip into the Nemesis mode. And this, as I showed you guys at the top of the video, is the model for Nemesis mode. Now, what is really cool about this hero is he's got 2 skins, hasn't he? So any future skins for this hero, he's going to need 2. Like, you can't just give him 1 because, well, he's got 2 different forms. So he's kind of like D.Va in that way. Although I would say D.Va is kind of not that difficult to make skins for, because the pilot, the baby D.Va, a lot of the skins for that are sort of, they don't really have massive, I don't know how to say this, like model changes to them. They're mainly like texture changes. Some of them do, but most of them don't. And the mech itself is where they put most of the effort, because of course that's what you see most of the time. But this guy, well, it's like he becomes the mech, if you get what I'm saying. Like, he's the Omnic, and then he decides to become the Nemesis Omnic, and it's like, you need 2 skins for that. So it could be really cool. Of course, it'll probably cost $1 billion, so yeah, it does kind of kill the hype for skins. But, you know, I can't wait to see what they look like. But yeah, let's look at the abilities for this. So I think this image is showing him punching, which I think is the primary fire when he's in this Nemesis tank mode. And now, the devs actually said this to the website they held the interview with. His punches can actually pierce through barriers, so there's some sort of little things he has that may make him a unique pick against certain compositions. So I'm thinking, but Reinhardt can swing his hammer through barriers. You can, like, Doomfist can punch through a barrier. A barrier doesn't stop you physically going through it. This might be lost in translation here, because if we look at this image, it looks like energy is coming out of his fists. So maybe there's a world where he's actually firing energy out of his fists, and that's his attack. Now, obviously, this couldn't be long range, because it would be stupid. But maybe it's like a short range thing, some sort of energy shockwave. Maybe he punches that hard that he creates shockwaves. I don't know. But this hero, I mean, again, it looks really, look at the size of it. It looks massive. This has got to be the biggest character in the game. It has to be. Look how massive it is. I'd definitely give him Reinhardt a run for his money. And he seems to be floating there as well, unless he's just jumping in the air. I don't know. Mental. So here's an in-game UI screenshot of what I believe is his tank ability. So he's holding up his fists, and if you look at his HP now, well, it's actually got a bit more significant. So you can see he's got a ton of armor. Some of it's been bled away there by the Sojin that appears to be attacking him. But when he's in tank mode, he becomes a hell of a lot more tanky. He gains a ton of armor, it would appear, going up from the 450 HP when he's in the Omnic mode. Now, what's he doing here? Well, he's blocking damage. This could be like a Doomfist power block kind of thing. Again, we've got no idea what this does to him. Is this just straight up damage block? How long can he do this for? Is this something he can do indefinitely? Is it just a short term thing? Well, it's actually not, is it? There's a counter in the middle of the screen, so we can see 6 seconds remaining of whatever he's doing. So 6, let's say this is like 3, 2, that's maybe an 8-second ability then, block, if my maths work out correctly there. But yeah, look down into the bottom right. You can see he's got the crossed arms, which is the alternate fire, which must be what he's doing right now. He's got the E ability, which, again, is this thing he can cast on the ground? Can he do that in this mode as well? I really don't know. And then the shift ability, which again, I'm thinking flips him back into the Omnic mode, although it kind of doesn't really make sense with the icons there because, well, it's not a big powerful fist, so I'm not really too sure on that. Maybe you could say that the E ability flips him into it, but I don't think it does because that icon looks definitely like that swirly thing that was spinning on the ground. And of course his primary fire is the fists doing whatever they do, and we know they can penetrate shields. There's also this little bit of information as well on the actual Nemesis mode itself. Could you elaborate a bit on the concept behind executing the Omnic version and Nemesis abilities? And Alec, who is of course now the lead hero designer of Overwatch 2, says, from a gameplay perspective, the dual modes are distinctly different, and that comes through in the mechanics as well. He does have some different abilities depending on which form he's in. Those ways to his primary fire and his secondary fire So you'll not only feel, though, the mechanical sense of Ramatra, but also visually as well. And remember, guys, it's kind of broken English because it's taken from a Malaysian website. I mean to touch on this a little bit, but Ramatra, while in Omnic form, he's not too large. He looks pretty normal size, like a tank would, but when he transforms, you're really going to see that visual change, and his growth there and whole silhouette just takes a different shape for that time. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we know so far about Ramatra, but this in-game model looks absolutely cracked to me. And this is what I love about Overwatch. Forget the monetization garbage. This is like where the game really shines. And the Origin trailer had me absolutely going mental last night when I was watching it, because the voice acting in it is great. I like the way they're setting Ramatra up, not to just be like a simple evil guy. He's not evil in the sense of him. He's just looking after his own people, and that just happens to go against the humans. Very interesting stuff. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I've been Stylosa, and I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. Toodaloo.